Today's episode of Poets at War is sponsored by the following. Imagine countless worlds before you. Fantasy and science fiction tales. Heroes charging gallantly into battle, heedless of win or fail. Upon the ancient steps of glory, a battle for time must be won. Join the characters from every realm as they seek the words, "Well done." Audio Adventures Podcast by Joshua David Ling, full of epic poetry, sure to make your heart sing. If you like listening to Rob Inglis read The Lord of the Rings, or Andrew Peterson read his Wingfeather Saga, you'll love Audio Adventures by Joshua David Ling. Visit joshuadavidling.com/audioadventures to listen.
Today on Poets at War, we talk with Stephanie Florentino, fantasy music maestro and piano teacher. What can she teach us about Lord of the Rings, Narnia, and many other things? We'll find out in the trenches on Poets at War.
I had piano lessons right before this, and they were on Zoom as well. So, and then we had technical difficulties.
Yeah,
of course, and
this is the way the world
they
works
couldn't get on. Yeah, and so I didn't finish teaching till like 5:15. So I've been running around getting ready ever since.
Makes sense. Yeah. Around here, been crazy. My unfortunately, our neighbor, who is also kind of sort of our landlord, it's a whole thing. She's 90 and in the hospital, and we just found out her cat had died. So
oh wow,
we're sad for her and dealing with that and everything else. So yeah, just crazy lately. I've been recording a lot of stories.
I noticed.
and I'm trying to be more consistent, and everything, and trying to do more just in general. So
right,
we'll see how that goes. But yeah.
So it seems like you're on a roll so far.
trying. So I guess, I don't know. Have you listened to Poets at War before or no?
Yes, not all of them.
Okay,
I'm still
so
catching up, but
like I'm always rolling, and I just kind of launch in whenever I'm not like there's no big intro when we're having a call. Okay, so I guess people can see if they're watching that you have a piano in front of you and a guitar behind you, and I think Ian played one or two things for us. Ian Maffett, not Ian Wilson.
Right.
Ian Maffett played a couple of things for us, but otherwise, I think you're one of the only musical guests we've had so far.
Cool.
So that's really cool. You want to tell people about your music? We just heard more than likely, I kept it in, that you're a piano teacher and everything. You're teaching through Zoom. So
yes.
We want to tell people a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm Stephanie Florentino, and I live in Texas. I am a piano teacher by day, and moonlight as a composer, performer, all of that good stuff. So,
what kind of genres are your main influence?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I probably draw a lot from my classical roots, as well as Celtic music. I'm really into that, as well as like folk, that sort of thing. I say would my main influences in general.
Whenever you want to play something, just jump in and say, "Hey, I want to play something now." This would be a good time to play it.
All right.
This is just a conversation you and me right here.
Right.
Other people are listening in, but like this is just us. So like, what is? I'm trying to remember. Did we meet through Fellowship of Fairy Dust?
I think so.
Yeah, I think
I'm pretty
right.
sure that's where I first saw you.
Yeah, and I definitely remember some of the first stuff that I heard from you was very Celtic
yeah.
feeling, and I really really enjoyed it. And I was looking for more
Thank
musically
you.
oriented people at the time. I
Yeah.
remember that because I was still trying to get into being able to compose anything, because
Right.
while I could compose in my head and I do everything by ear, I could not work with a
Ah.
digital audio workstation at all.
Oh
And
yeah, and
so
that's a whole other beast, you
yes, it
know.
is. Yes, it is. And I'm doing better in that, but I've always
Yeah.
really appreciated everything that you've done, that I've
Thank
been
you.
able to listen to. And just like I said, we've kind of revolved around some of the same groups. I invited you to the Brood, and
Yeah.
you lurked in and out like a bunch of people do. We
Yeah.
have kind of our regulars, and then we have our lurkers, and I love all of
Yeah.
them. I love the fact that people want to be there.
Hmm.
So
Oh yeah, I
um
would say I am 100% a lurker. Same with Fellowship and Fairy Dust.
yeah.
It's like I don't like participate very often, like
Right.
visibly,
Hmm.
but I typically read things that people post, and
Hmm.
and same with the Brood is
Hmm.
I almost always see everything y'all say. I just don't always
Right.
feel the need to
Well, you
input.
actually seeing what we say is more than what some do, because I know there are people who will mute us for months
Mm,
on end and then come back in and hang out and whatever. And I get it.
right.
It's a lot of
True.
gifs, it's a lot of memes, but
It is. It is. And I will say that I will admit, I should say that I'm not a morning person
right.
at all. And it seems like a lot of the people in the Brood are. And so
Yeah, a lot of
I
the core people
will
are. Yeah.
yeah, so I will sometimes mute the chat before I go to bed at night, just so
Right.
that I'm not being woken up at like 6 a.m. with
Right.
10,000 messages.
Right. And keep in mind also, a lot of us are East Coasters, and you're in Texas.
True.
So that's the other
True.
thing that tends to throw things off. So,
Yeah, that is
but
a good point.
but yeah, so what made you I guess how been playing a long time, I'm expecting, because classical roots and everything. Where did you
Yeah.
start, and what was like your journey in that regard?
Well, piano was my beginning, definitely. I've played almost all of my life. I started like uh, normal lessons, if you will, around like 5 or 6, I think. But before that, I would just play by ear all the time. So, like I had one of those cheap plastic xylophones that like every nursery has,
Yeah.
and I could just like sit down and I would just start figuring out songs by ear on my own. And so my parents realized, oh, there's something there. Maybe we should look into lessons. So, and I pretty much stuck with it ever since. And that was my primary instrument in college too, because I majored in music as well. And my focus was in piano performance. So, yeah, I was primarily classically trained. So a lot of classical music. I listened to a lot of classical music as a kid. I was kind of a weird kid. I never listened to a lot of the like popular stuff of the day. I liked really old stuff by dead people. So
Hey, some of that's awesome. Do you have a favorite composer or favorite 3 composers?
okay. Definitely Beethoven.
Mm-hmm.
And Chopin. I have to love Chopin because I'm a pianist. I also really enjoy Debussy. Getting more into the like impressionist style there, but I really enjoy his music as well, I'd say.
I know there's opinions up and down, but I'm a big Bach person. I always have been.
Yes.
I love Bach so much. So
I absolutely love Bach too.
Yeah.
Like, let's just say limiting it to 3 composers.
Yeah, totally. No, I get
to
that.
do.
I get that. Yeah, Beethoven's a big one for me too. But I there's something about Johann Sebastian Bach.
Yes.
I'm telling you, the power and majesty in his music,
Definitely.
when he really turns it on, is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and everything is so like intricate and woven together. And
speaking of like nursery toys, I had a keychain set. It was a plastic, a couple plastic keys with a little fob on it, and you press the button and it would play Minuet and G. And
nice.
To this day, I can't hear Minuet and G without feeling completely and totally nostalgic. Like, it is one of the most nostalgic pieces for me, period. So
yeah, music can have that power, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thought of one other toy. I actually bought the remake of it for my kids, and it's actually a full recreation. It's not like they redesigned it. It's actually like the same toy basically, but it's the Fisher-Price record player. You know which one I'm talking about?
I'm pretty sure I remember that.
Yeah. I always thought that was really cool growing up. I had it as a kid, and I found it at Cracker Barrel one day, and I was like, that is going to my kids.
That's amazing.
So yeah, but it's crazy how I've heard that story a lot. Kids getting into music through toys or through sometimes it's a TV show or something like that. It just depends, but by ear, I think is so natural for not everyone, but I think a majority of people. And I think it just doesn't get watered and fertilized in everyone, so
exactly. Oh yeah, definitely.
So you started in piano and you went through college with piano. What are some of the other instruments you play, and what was your journey like getting to those instruments and through those instruments, so to speak, like to actually being good at them?
Right. Well, I focused on piano for many years. It wasn't until around like middle school that I started branching out. I mean, unless you include like, the cheap school recorders.
Right.
Which I don't really count that. Although I still have mine. But I say the first instrument I played after piano was actually clarinet. Because I wanted to join the band, and they didn't really need pianists in the school band. So I actually tried flute first and couldn't make a sound on it to save my life, and it was really frustrating. Only I found out after the fact that, because I was just borrowing a school instrument, turns out it was broken the whole time.
Nice.
And I tried my friend's flute, and I was like, oh, I actually can play it. But I was kind of scarred from that experience, so I switched to clarinet.
Right.
And played that for all of middle school, and then my family moved. That was when we lived in Colorado, when I played clarinet. Then we moved back to Texas when I was in high school, and I didn't have my own instrument, so I kind of stopped playing clarinet and just focused on piano again during that time. And I think around high school was when I picked up violin. And it was just an instrument that I had always loved. And plus, one of my old piano teachers also played violin. So I heard her play both instruments all the time. So I'm sure there was some influence there. Plus, I started really getting into Irish music at the time. And I was like, I want to be a fiddle player.
Do you remember what some of your first songs or experiences with Irish music were that really like brought that joy out of you?
Oh, well, some of my... that's a good question. I kind of have a wide range of Irish music that I listened to. Some was more traditional stuff like the Clancy Brothers and the Chieftains, the Dubliners, that sort of thing. But I also went through this phase. Well, I say went. I still am kind of obsessed. I'm still obsessed with Enya as well. But I discovered her in high school, and I just went through this phase where I listened to Enya all the time.
Is that through Lord of the Rings?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were turned on to her through Lord of the Rings.
I heard May It Be, and I was all like, she's amazing. And so I looked her up, and I was like, she's been around for since the 80s or something like that. And I was shocked I hadn't heard of her before then, but...
Was Lord of the Rings your first, the movies, your first experience of Tolkien? The movies specifically, or did you read the books before, or have you read the books? I don't know.
It's confession time, I see. Well...
You're not the only one. Ian Wilson hasn't read them.
No, I have read the books several times since then. But as much as I would love to say so, I actually saw the movies first before I read the books. And although I always kind of gave my dad a hard time for that because he was the one who took me to watch the movie in the theaters. And he just told me, oh, there's this movie out called Lord of the Rings. And I was like, what's that? And he was like, oh, it's really good. I read the books when I was a kid. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And then, of course, my mind was blown. Yeah. And so then I went and got the books.
Nothing in the theaters before, maybe Star Wars, but that's it, you know?
Exactly. And so I immediately went and got all the books and just devoured them. And so, but I always... but so I'd be mad at Dad. I'd be like, why didn't you tell me sooner? You read this when you were a kid and you didn't tell me that this existed? Right. How could you?
See, my dad raised me on Narnia. And then he never read Lord of the Rings. It was a little bit too nerdy for him book-wise growing up. And so, but he knew it was good. And he knew that that we would probably like it. So we had a very similar experience. There's this movie, Lord of the Rings. And I had seen a couple trailers for it, but it seemed way more adult at the time than what he would normally take me to in the theater. I was 11, right? And so it was like, well, I'm 11. I know I can take it, but like, are you sure this is one you wanted me to take me to? So it was one of those things. And yeah, like you said, mind was blown. And it was years later that I actually read the books. Because I'm dyslexic. I think I've told you this before. So I had to eventually get the audiobooks, and that really clicked it for me. And I love them. I mean, they're just incredible pieces of literature. But so
audiobooks are great.
Yeah, they are. So music, and you also do lyrics and stuff too. When did that start?
Yes. That's a more recent addition for the most part. I mean, every now and then when I was a kid, I would like feel the inspiration and I'd try writing song lyrics, but nothing ever came of them, and they got, buried far away where no one will ever see them. Right. But honestly, I didn't even really get into composing music until college. So the music came first, and then once my confidence, kind of got a little better, then I started thinking about possibly singing. And so then I started writing songs with lyrics too. But for a while, I only wrote instrumental stuff. But yeah, so I was an adult before I started really seriously songwriting.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you're on that journey now. And, there's so many things to conquer in music in general that people don't even think about.
Definitely.
And I just love seeing people slog away at it and really try hard and not get frustrated. That part amazes me. The not getting frustrated, I mean, you get some frustrated, but you don't stop. That's the thing that's incredible. So do you want to do you have something you want to go ahead and play? I feel like now might be a good time.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. I was thinking maybe just starting with an instrumental just to kind of warm up here.
Sure.
So
I'll just make sure I mute myself.
That works. Yeah, I'll start with a piano solo then.
Okay, I will listen.
It's called Universe.
Woohoo! Yes, making my job easy right over here. I'm telling you what.
Thank you.
Yep. That was wonderful. Was that one you wrote or no?
Yes.
Yes. Are all these ones tonight that you're doing the ones you wrote?
Yep.
Wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, they're all originals. In fact, Universe, the one I just played, was the first sheet music that I published.
Nice.
So it's close to my heart because it was the start of it all.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I feel that way about Cyclone Jones, one of my superheroes.
Yeah.
I've published her a million times, and I still I actually read some stuff from her today for a future episode, and it's almost like riding a bike. You know what I mean? It really feels like you just know where to hit every single emphasis, and that's just a joy in art sometimes. Like sometimes it gets rote and you get bored with it and whatever else, but like you can always come back and it just feels warm and like home, Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way about a lot of my songs. It's kind of weird, but sometimes I like to just sit down and play my own songs for the fun of it, because
I like to listen to my own stories. Like I do, like hearing myself read my own stories to me, because in a way, and you might feel this way with music to a certain extent, because I know, especially from a writer's perspective in music, it's almost like both in music and storytelling, you're preaching to yourself what you believe. I've always felt that way about my own stories, not just like
definitely
even the morals, but like the themes, and it reminds me of other pieces that inspired the story, and even little details in the story, and so
definitely.
I can totally I can totally relate to that, man. That's awesome. So getting back to kind of Narnia, Lord of the Rings, what are some of the biggest influences on your music outside of music itself and different genres and things? What really gets you pumped to write music outside of music?
Right. So I say probably two main sources, non-musical sources. The first one is definitely literary sources. So I've written songs, about Narnia and Lord of the Rings, and sometimes I've set like other poems that other people wrote to music. That sort of thing. I'd say my second source of inspiration is usually comes from nature a lot of the time. So I find a lot of inspiration and joy in the beauty of creation, and as the scriptures say, the heavens declare the glory of God, right? So that's definitely something that I draw from a lot, is just the world around me and the beauty that I see there.
So I was gonna say, like, Universe has obviously you're drawing from nature, creation, the universe. I'm getting hints of the medieval picture of the planets, the music of the spheres, that sort of a thing. But was there anything in that piece, or in your pieces coming up here in a little while, that were directly influenced by either literary or nature sources, that you can kind of give us a hint of how those things came about?
Sure. Well, like you said, Universe, of course, was mostly like space themed. And to be honest, I actually started writing. It was mostly an improvised piece. And I just sat down at the piano one day and just started playing, and, came up with this tune. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And it kind of reminded me of, space. So it got the name Universe. But let me think. Other songs. Today, well, for sure, I have one that you asked about, one's derived from nature, right?
Nature or literary sources, because you mentioned they're both really important to you. So
yeah. So, I've got a another piano solo that is inspired by Narnia, so I can play that one if we decide to. I've also got...
It's whatever you want to do. I'm not pushing anything in any direction. You're in charge of that.
Right. Let's see, other songs I've prepared. I have a song I sing that is inspired by The Hobbit. So there's that one. And I have another sort of Celtic-y themed piece that is kind of more like a fairy tale setting, but there's a lot of, like the magic of nature and
this is really fascinating
that
to me,
sort of thing.
Just the way you're talking about it, because this is something I've always thought, having dabbled in musical fields and of course being much more proficient in story and rhyme and lyric and that sort of a thing. I have to use a completely different part of my brain, and it's not a mechanical versus whatever creative brain thing. It's a whole different abstract level that I'm not used to.
Gotcha.
And I'm hearing a lot of abstract in the way that you're speaking, and I've always thought that's probably the case because that's the place I have to go to work on music. And I'm not as comfortable
makes
there.
Sense.
But for example, like when I was thinking of the question for myself, there's stuff in Cyclone Jones that directly connects to things that I experienced as a child. There are houses that I picture in my brain, either from my childhood or even that are still standing, that were the houses where these characters grew up, and I can picture the distance between them and know what it was like 20 years ago in this exact area, right? And so there's all kinds of themes I can pull out of that, feelings and aesthetics and all these other sorts of things that are more abstract, but I start from a very concrete place and then move and fill it in with abstractness.
Got it. Yeah.
Whereas
I definitely have more songs that are more like, derived from personal experiences too. My husband and I went to Ireland, I want to say 2015, I think, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And which was, like a dream come true for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously. So
what parts did you get to, may I ask?
We went all over, to be honest. Within the Republic of Ireland. Yeah, no, we didn't go into Northern Ireland. I'd love to go back and do that too, but but he found a deal, actually. I don't remember where. It was somewhere online. He's really good at like doing research and planning and stuff. Yeah. And I'm not. So it works well. I just go along for the ride and he figures out all the details. So, but basically we got this package where all of the hotel stays were booked for us. In these different places around Ireland, and so all we had to do was show up at the places to check in the day we were supposed to, and we could do whatever we wanted in between. So we started in Dublin and then like went north and then west and then south and just basically ended up making a circle around the entire island and ending back in Dublin.
There's one town I have to ask if you had to, and you
okay.
I don't have no clue if you did or not. It's kind of a middling town. It's not a small town, not a big town, but it's Ballyshannon.
I don't think we did. I know of Ballyshannon, but I don't think that we made it there.
I had to ask because I have a story based in Ballyshannon, so I had to ask. But yeah,
gotcha.
But go back to where you were. You were talking about the trip to Ireland and how that inspired something.
Oh, yeah. So on our way back, I wrote a poem about all the places we had experienced in Ireland, and then I set it to music when I got back home. So that song is definitely inspired from personal experiences, and and there's others like that too, I'm sure, that I'm blanking on, but
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I don't know. I always like there's so much more free flowingness in music inspiration for me and for everyone else I've ever met. And I'm just fascinated by that difference, you know?
It can definitely it can go either way for me. It's like every song comes out of me in a different way. So like sometimes it's a more abstract spur of the moment thing, like with Universe. Like I said, I mostly improvised all that. We had like one of those random rare ice snow days in Texas where everything shuts down and no one goes anywhere because
I'm in Augusta, Georgia, so I know.
yeah, because we're not used to it. So I was stuck at home in the freezing weather, had nothing to do, and it was snowing outside, so I just felt like playing piano, so I just sat down and started playing just random stuff, and that came out of that.
Right.
And other times, I've got another song, the like fairy tale one I was talking about. For that one, I think I came up with the music first, and then I was all like, this needs words. Now I've got to figure out words that fit in with the music, which was a different experience. Usually I write words first and then figure out a tune to go with them. So that was an interesting challenge, trying to find words that fit with the rhythm and flow of the song I'd already written.
Cool. Well, you got another one for us? Is this about time, you think?
Yeah, sure. Let me just...
I was thinking you had 2 or 3, if I remember correctly, or did you have more than that?
Well, I like to be prepared, so
You over-prepared.
Yeah, so I over-prepare, so I had like 6 or 7 songs ready, so I could just kind of pick and choose.
Cool. I'm just wondering, just because I want to be a good steward of our time, so.
Absolutely. All right, let me think.
Take your time, no big deal.
Just making sure I got all of my equipment set up properly here.
I'll go ahead and mute myself.
All right. So that I can play this one properly, since we were just talking about this song. So this is my Celtic inspired type of song here, which I actually wrote with harp accompaniment and some like strings and percussion and stuff. So, but the nice thing about electric keyboards is, I can, if I get the right sound, there we go, I can be a harp. All right, I think I'm all set up now. So this one is simply called The Call, and which is kind of vague on purpose, basically. Trying to think how to explain it. Basically, I'm this narrator who's never really identified. So you can kind of draw from it what you will, but I'm, talking to the listener and calling them to come away to this magic forest and all that fun stuff. So the majority of it is in English, but there is a recurring line. So the second line of every verse is actually in Irish Gaelic. And just to warn you, so you don't think you're going crazy if you don't understand a random line in the song.
What's the translation of that line?
Yeah, so the line is Glenna Kill Omokri, which means the music calls to my heart. So that's sort of like the recurring line and theme to the whole song.
Cool.
All right, here we go. thrushes on 'neath shadowed gaze, singing, hey yo, whammy liddle yo, hey yo, whammy liddle lay. Where roots drink deep and ever long, when on Colum Cree, and the warm air hums with dryad song, tiralirally, we'll take the hidden path that leads to the hill of the great oak tree, where the wren comes out to play, singing, hey yo, whammy liddle lay yo, hey yo, whammy liddle lay. Now sit thee down on the shady green, when I call 'em a cree, and tarry by those mossy feet contentedly, to hear the bonny wren that sings, and with it let thy heart take wing, till all cares have flown away, singing, hey yo, whammy liddle lay yo, hey yo, whammy liddle lay. In springtime when the lilies bloom, when I call 'em a cree, and enchant the air with sweet perfume, I'll wait for thee. The willow bends to kiss the pool, where stars bathe in the water's cool, and greet all creatures fade, singing, hey yo, whammy liddle lay yo, hey yo, whammy liddle lay. Or if ye come in summer's haze, when I call 'em a cree, we'll count the dragonflies and lays on a bed of green. When the autumn leaves are bright, beneath the silver moonlight, with fairies we'll dance and play, singing, hey yo, whammy liddle lay yo, hey yo, whammy liddle lay. But when the winter's breath blows cold, when I call 'em a cree, and wraps a downy cloak of snow round forest feet, I'll slumber in the great oak tree until you come again to me, when the song of spring awakes, singing, hey yo, whammy liddle lay yo, hey yo, whammy liddle lay, singing, hey yo, whammy liddle lay yo, hey yo, whammy liddle lay.
Woohoo! Yes.
That's it.
Yes. It had a interesting twinge in the rhythm of, like, to me anyway, a Southern black spiritual kind of a thing mixed in with the Celtic.
I never thought of that before.
It has a soulful kind of rhythm to it that I think is really fun. That really was fun.
Thanks.
Being, in the Southeast in particular, the old South, not the Wild West, but the old South, like there's this thing in the atmosphere that we're very Celtic and we have this African influence, and when they come together, there's this in everything, in food, in aesthetics, in music, in everything. When they come together, there's this beautiful feel, and I really felt that in that song.
I can absolutely see that, definitely. Well, I guess, given that the roots of like bluegrass in particular is really derived back from like Irish immigrants and that sort of thing, so that could be why I also enjoy like bluegrass and like more that type of style music too. It's sort of like American version
definitely
of Celtic music.
They kind of ran out of the woodwinds and started going to the Appalachian dulcimers and all that good stuff. And exactly. No, I totally get it. So I wanted to make sure, because you're one of the self-proclaimed introverts in the brood, I wanted to make sure, given the time that we have left, that a couple things happen. One, if there's anything you want to talk about with me, that we can bring that up and go from there. That's the first thing. Second thing is we got to get at least one more song, if not two.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though we don't have a ton of time. I don't know how much time you have. I usually try and keep it to an hour, but it's not a hard fast rule.
Okay, I say it's all up to you, because I don't have any plans tonight. So right. I could stay. I can sit here and play for like 3 hours and not get tired. So
I love it.
But that might be a little too long for a podcast.
I won't keep you that long. Don't worry. I love it, but I won't keep you that long. And then the other thing is, I wanted to specifically, definitely circle back. I want to hear a Narnia song for sure. So I want to circle back to Narnia. I want to circle back to your relationship with Narnia and how that came about, because Narnia is like the first big foray into fantasy and magic and all the other kinds of stuff. And it for me, and I cannot remember a time without it. Just like I cannot remember a time without scripture. So it's very close to my heart. But first, let's go back to the first one. Did you have anything you wanted to bring up? And if the answer is no, it's not a big deal at all. I just wanted to give you a second to say, this is the thing that I wanted to talk about.
That's a good question. I don't really think so.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Not a problem.
As you said, I'm an introvert, so my forte is not spontaneous conversation.
And me, as the extrovert, needs to look out for you and say, hey, here's your spot. You got something, let's go.
Yeah, like I have no problem talking with people, as long as I don't have to carry the conversation.
Right. And I have such a hard time like group conversation versus like this sort of a thing. This is really comfortable for me, one-on-one kind of a thing, or one-on-two.
Oh yeah, this is way more comfortable than like being on stage talking to a bunch of people or something.
Yeah, you have one set of body language to read, and that's it.
Exactly.
Zoom makes it hard enough. I know how that is. So
definitely.
But yeah, so I guess Narnia, circling back to that, what was your introduction and your relationship with Narnia as you've grown?
I'd say that my experience was pretty close to yours, actually. I'm pretty sure it was my first experience as well with fantasy. And yeah, I can't really remember a time without it either. We had the whole set of books growing up, and I've read them multiple times and always loved them. So they were just always part of my childhood.
Do you have a favorite?
And, all right.
It's so hard. They're all simple.
I know. I always, in like Facebook groups for Narnia and stuff, and people always bring this up, and I'm always like, how did people choose? But
I have two
so I never answer.
I have two that stand out for me, but go ahead.
I'd say that obviously The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is very special, just because it's like everyone's introduction to the world,
Or it should be.
Most people start with that one. Yeah, right. It's like, I don't have a problem now reading them in chronological order because I've read them enough times. But Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is definitely the way to start. So that one's very special because it's just got this like sense of wonder and excitement for the first time that you're entering this world. And there's probably nostalgia there too. But I've also always really enjoyed Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Mm-hmm.
I just really like the adventure aspect of that one. So I've also always been very in love with the sea. Right. So I love the idea of sailing and in fact, growing up, I was convinced that I was going to be a marine biologist when I grew up.
I actually had a very short phase of my life where I was there too. Believe it or not, I love deep sea creatures and stuff, but I never really had a big love of the sea. I was always a mountain person. I love the mountains.
Oh yeah. And, I love both equally. Yeah. So I can't choose between those either.
I hear you.
But I also lived in the mountains for a while. When we lived in Colorado, we lived all the way up in Estes Park, which is like where the entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park is. So I spent, years of my childhood just going into the park whenever I wanted to and hiking the mountains and being surrounded by that all the time. So that's very special to me.
Yeah.
I definitely miss those vistas living in Texas.
That's one of those things that I'm glad it's not far from me. I'm definitely past the foothills. I kind of grew up in the very beginning of the foothills, and we could just literally travel 20 minutes north and we'd be in the foothills. You know what I'm saying? The very first little bits of the foothills, but that's north of Atlanta. Now I'm still a little ways away, but it's not that far, so but the thing is, like, obviously Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like you said, it's really hard to beat. But my other favorite is one that very few people bring up, and that's the Silver Chair. I really love the Silver Chair.
I feel like, at least online, that one seems to get a lot of hate from people. But
I know. What is up with that?
I don't know, because honestly, I've always enjoyed that one as well.
Right. Yeah. My dad was a big fan of Voyage of the Dawn Treader. It was other than, like, I get into it more now, mostly because of Reapy Cheap. He's great. I'll launch into this. This is interesting stuff. I don't think I ever talked about it specifically in the Brood, but as a family thing, there's me, there's Casey, there's Hazel, and there's Peter. You see them fairly often in the Brood. So Casey and I decided shortly after Hazel was born that we would give to each other and to our kids a name from a secondary name from each of our 4 favorite fantasy series, which are Narnia Rings, The Song of Albion by Stephen Lawhead, and The Wingfeather Saga by Andrew Peterson. Cool. I don't know if you've read either of the other two.
I have not, but I haven't heard of the other one you said, but I have heard of the Wingfeather Saga, and it's been on my to be read list forever, and I just
definitely
haven't got around to it.
Yeah, definitely add The Song of Albion too. It's a trilogy from the 90s that's portal fantasy. It's really, really good, but it's an adult. I mean, you know what I mean? It's written for adults, portal fantasy.
Yeah.
And so it's...
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. That sounds really right up, my alley.
Yeah. So my Narnia name is Reapy Cheap, and my wife picked that for me. So,
I love that.
It's that kind of a thing. But yeah, Silver Chair, it just gets such a weird rap, and I'm like, that is one of the clearest depictions of what Lewis believes about fantasy in any of his works, nonfiction or fiction, with Puddleglum. I will live as like a Narnian. And I love how he ends it with basically like, yeah, thanks for nothing, bye. Like the British version of that.
Yeah. You know? I love Puddleglum. He's great.
Wonderful. Did your dad ever read them to you, or were you just you read them?
Yeah, I don't remember him reading the Narnia to me. I think I just read those myself. I could be wrong about that, but I don't remember that. He read all of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and all 7 Harry Potter books to me, and a few others as well.
So you have
family reading time was a big thing in our house. So you know, I still hear his voice for a lot of the characters and stuff.
Yeah. And I know he passed away recently. My dad passed away in 2020. And I know how important that is. And that's something that Poets at War, the audio adventures, all this kind of stuff that I'm trying to do. I'm really trying to get fathers especially, but also mothers and even siblings to be their family's bard. You know, be the one who brings the stories, brings the music, brings that encouragement 24/7. You know, we get the scripture, and we need the scripture all the time, but we also need these other things that enforce the scripture and will pass the time and bring us together in fellowship. And definitely. I had the distinct honor of I think it was the day before my dad passed away. Mom needed a break from being in the hospital for obvious reasons, and I was there, and I actually got to read a good chunk of the last battle, the last part of the last battle to him, when they're, you know,
that's great.
Entering into through the stable and into Narnia and everything. And it was, you know, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but it was a distinct pleasure. So
I'd say that, you know, when my dad was in the hospital, unfortunately, my mom had COVID at the same time.
Right.
So she wasn't allowed in.
Right.
So, and my sisters also had it. So I was the only one who was not sick. So it was pretty much, I was the only one who could go in and see him. So it was definitely hard. And, you know, felt like a big responsibility at the time. You know, it was like, I'm the only one who can, you know, be here. And he was unconscious the whole time. So I couldn't interact with him.
Yeah, same with my dad. He woke up one, and let me tell you this. This is one very interesting thing. His very last words to me, he woke up and hadn't been awake for a couple of days, really. He woke up for about a minute or two and actually tried to get out of bed.
Oh, wow.
And he, you know, the nurse came in and kind of held him back a little bit and whatever. And he looked me straight in the eyes and he said, "What are you doing here?" Because I'm 3 hours away, right? I live 3 hours away. And I said to him, and I'm pretty sure he understood me, you know, based on my tone. I said, "I came here for Mom, not for you." Because he knew he was dying.
Right.
I said, "I came here for Mom, not for you."
Yeah.
And that was our last exchange. He started to fall asleep again. And it's such a weird thing to me, because I've looked back at it and looked at it more and more. And, you know, with all this bardic, crazy, fun stuff that I do, he understood it at times and didn't at others. And literally like a couple weeks before all this stuff started happening, his health took a downturn. He took us to Waffle House and was hanging out with us. And we had this exchange where he knocked over some water because he was still weak from his previous illness. And he felt so embarrassed about it. And I, you know, there were times that he yelled at me growing up, you know, for spilling stuff and things like that. And I was able to look at him and be like, "Don't feel bad about it." You know, and I know it wasn't lost on him, because he started to cry a little bit, you know, like it wasn't, that moment wasn't lost on him. So like, there's these little moments and things. And because of that tension of me being weird and wacky and him being a little more straight lace, like he told me well before he, during that Waffle House session, like how proud he is of me and what I'm doing and all that other kind of stuff. And so when he said, "What are you doing here?" I kind of also take it as like, in a more broad sense, what are you doing here on Earth? And that really spurred me on too.
Yeah.
So I just had to share that with somebody, and I felt like it would be good to share it with you.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Given everything that we've been through the past couple of years with that.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Well, but I'm still, I wouldn't, trade that for anything though, even though it was hard. I'm glad that I was there, and I was able to like do a group call with my mom and sisters and everything. You were your family's
bard.
Yeah, and so I would stand by his hospital bed and read scripture, and then I would sing a hymn, and then we would all pray together out loud, so everyone was there in spirit and could hear it. So we had a lot of like family worship time the last few days of his life, which I think is how he would have wanted it.
Yeah. And like I said, I didn't necessarily mean to bring this up, but I felt like it was a good transition and felt good and cathartic for us to talk about this, because I was trying to get you on the podcast around the time this was happening, and I just remember like I tried to be as kind as possible in the messages and everything. But I had so much more that I wanted to say to you in comfort, and it just would not come through in text, so I'm glad we had this.
No worries. I understand.
But anyway, can we do here's what I'm thinking. We'll do a song, and then we'll do a quick wrap up where I can get you to plug wherever you have your stuff, whether it's on Spotify, websites, YouTube. I know you have a YouTube channel. I haven't really looked you up much other places, but I want to know, and I know they want to know after hearing these awesome songs. And then we'll do one more as the final outro. We'll talk afterward, but that will be off air. So song, wrap up song. Is that good for you?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. And remember, one of them's Narnia.
Yes, definitely. Let me think. Maybe I'll save the Narnia one for last, since that's just piano, so
sounds great.
That'll be easy enough to do. My husband and I Zoom called earlier this week to test it out, so hopefully you'll be able to pick it up all right with the acoustic guitar, but I guess if not, just let me know and I can play something else.
Will do.
All right. But I really wanted to play this one if I could, because this is my Tolkien inspired piece. Particularly The Hobbit, but really just all of Middle Earth in general.
The legendary.
Yes. So, but it's called There and Back Again. Good morning. Close the door. Home is behind. The world before. The journey begun. Unexpectedly. Missing the simple life, but the road is calling. Over here, through forest old, to cavern deep, cast aside for a perilous world and many dark nights. Oh, don't turn away, though the road be long and it's easier to stay. Go on, traveler, go on. Set your feet and look to the day. May your path be straight and your heart be strong. And when you feel the world sweeping you away, go on, traveler, go there and back again. Weary feet, heavy heart, home and journey's end seems so far when the world turns dark and friends turn cold and love and kindness are sacrificed to pride and gold. Oh, don't lose heart. You can be the light that shines in the dark. Go on, traveler, go on. Set your feet and look to the day. May your path be straight and your heart be strong. And when you feel the world sweeping you away, go on, traveler, go there and back again.
Very, very nice. Very nice.
Thank
Love
you.
all the nods to various Tolkien poems. Very, very nice.
Yeah, I had to get some Easter eggs in there, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, especially with man who is as lyrically talented as Tolkien, you know.
Exactly.
So, where can people find you on the wide internet?
Well, I'm not on like Spotify or anywhere like that. That's in my like near future plans, as I would like to like do more like professional recording and you know, put albums out, and so hopefully eventually I'll be on places like that.
If there's anything I can do to help with that, please let me know, for real.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe things will start to settle down now and I can kind of, make plans and figure all that out.
Sweet.
But in the meantime, I am on YouTube, just my name, Stephanie Florentino. I also have like a Facebook page. I think it's Stephanie Florentino Music. And I'm on like Instagram and Twitter. I think my handles for those are like SR Florentino, I think, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So I changed it to like my initials on those, but
I'll try and link all those for everybody so that they know where to find you and where to connect. So are you doing any sort of like commissions or anything right now, or are you mainly just kind of focusing on your own thing?
At the moment, it's mostly just my own thing, other than like teaching. Most of the stuff that I've put out, like sheet music wise, has been my own stuff. So I did do one like arrangement for one of my students. It's just like this really, really simple arrangement of Carol of the Bells, because he wasn't that advanced yet, but he was obsessed with it during Christmas time, like most piano students are, and he wanted to learn it. So I wrote this like really easy version, and then I thought others could benefit from it, so I put that out, and that's actually been my most popular. Like, I've sold more of that than any of my other stuff, which is kind of depressing, but
hey, I mean, it's popular for a reason.
Yeah, it's doing what it was supposed to do, I guess, and helping other students out.
Well, I know how that goes. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and do my normal sign off kind of a thing, and then you can play your song to roll us out, and then just stay on. We'll talk for just a couple more minutes off the record, so to speak, and then move on from there. So everybody, you heard the importance of being your family's bard in this episode. I didn't know we were going to hear that, but you heard it.
Me neither.
And I really appreciate Stephanie for being on and for being part of the Brood. If you'd like to join the Brood, please message me and let me know. But until then, do not turn to the right or to the left, and the Lord will be with you wherever you go. Be your family's bard. We'll see you in the trenches on Poets at War. And I can edit there into your song. So
cool. That works. I like that sign off.
Thank you.
It's cool. Well, that wasn't so bad.
Not at all. I mean, it's just a talk with a friend. Like I said, you get to play some songs for me. I get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, this is great.
Yeah. It's, like I said, being the introvert that I am, just trying to talk and vocally express myself in a intelligent and understandable way is not my forte.
I don't know if you remember me saying this at any point in the Brood or whatever, but I was a mobile DJ growing up. Like, I was raised in that business, right, doing parties and stuff. And so for me, like, being an MC is a normal, like, it comes very naturally because I've been doing it since I was like 12, and so like my dad did more than I did, but like occasionally I needed to make an announcement or something, whatever, like, and I had to read a crowd and I had to do all this kind of stuff. And so when I'm just talking with a friend, I can still in the background keep the idea of a show going on. It's a weird talent that I can't
that's
explain.
A good skill to have. Yeah. Definitely. So
we're gonna do this.
There was something I was gonna say. Yeah. I can definitely do that now.
I'm not rushing you at all. We can talk afterward too. Yeah.
Oh, no problem. I was just trying to decide here. So I think you've heard my Narnia piece before. The whole thing is a little longer, like 8 minutes long. So I kind of cut a few parts out.
That's okay.
To try to shorten it down.
Whatever you want to do in that regard.
Sure. So either way, I think it still works as is. All right.
God of song, said the warrior bard, though all the world betray thee, one sword at least thy right shall guard, one faithful harp shall praise thee.